Man, there's just way too many isekais. Like every season, there's a million isekai shows. Why can't they have better ideas than just another isekai? It's kind of the thing I hear a lot when it comes to isekais, or is from those that are not familiar. Is just shows that involve being transported to another world, or a character being trapped in another world. That kind of concept, and it's something that's been kind of growing in popularity lately, hugely unpopular. I mean, yeah, technically it's not the first type of genre, so to speak, that has done something like this. I mean, we had at some period of time people were complaining there was too many mecha shows. They were complaining there was too many club shows. I was complaining there was too many club shows. I didn't have a problem with the too many mecha shows. And then over time, we really don't have any mecha shows coming out much anymore. I mean, Gundam even is scarce as it is. And then you have light novel adaptations. There was a complaint at some point that there was too many light novel adaptations, which personally I don't understand the the complaint there, because it's just a story, whether it's being done in a light novel or a manga. I guess you can argue that light novels are generally more have a lot of internal narrative that doesn't really get portrayed in anime very well. But yeah, the recent one is definitely isekais. We have a huge influx of shows that are isekais. And granted, I'd also make the argument that it's mainly because we have a more influx of shows in general that it's more prevalent. We have, in the late 90s, there was a period of time where you would have, maybe one or two shows a season. And one of those shows or two of those shows might just be Dragon Ball Z or something that's a long running series that's just continuing season to season. Whereas today, I mean, granted, for the last few years, definitely we have 40 plus shows in a season, which is upwards of 160 shows a year. So it's more easy now than ever for several studios to do the same type of content at the same time. And like I said, with the aspect of isekais being popular in Japan right now, you're going to see a lot of them. I think right now with the current season of winter 2021, we have upwards of, I think, 5 isekai shows. Granted, some are returning, but it's hard to ignore. I'm not here to kind of apologize for the fact that there is a lot of isekais. There's nothing wrong with somebody wanting unique experiences, and they feel that when they see a lot of isekai shows in the recent charts, they're going to think immediately, man, that's all they have. There's nothing else that they can provide. It's a valid argument, but at the same time, my argument here is really to say why I choose to keep watching them. Why, Andrew? Why do you keep watching the same thing, the same concept over and over again? And it's easy from the outside looking in to make that judgment that you're just watching the same thing over and over and over again. Whereas my point of view has been more in the idea that I can get unique experiences from these shows. I can find something unique in them that I can pull from each experience. You can have a standard show where first episode, boy ends up in another world and he's overpowered, or he has something, he's using the science of modern times to get an advantage. That is a something that you'd see in that first episode and immediately go, shut down. I don't need to watch this. I know what's going to happen. Where alternatively, for me, it's I look at it and I say, okay, you've opened it up similar to what everything else has done, of course, but what new experience will you have in that world? Granted, every show will open up the same. Introduce characters. They've done that a million times. Introduce drama. They've done that a million times. Introduce the basketball team. They've done that a million times. You go into a sports show knowing you're going into a sports show that's been done a million times, but what will that sports show provide differently? What experience will it have within that setting that will be different? And Isekai does the same thing. It opens up with that similar opening, but then provide what? And granted, they're not all going to provide something unique in their experiences, and that's what, of course, tells you what's the good ones and the bad ones. But it's that search for that experience that I would go into expecting, hoping that it would have in it. And that's something I really want to portray here. Is, like I said, I understand that they're going to have similar concepts. I understand they're going to have that similar feel, but it's giving it a chance. That's the thing that sets it aside to a possible experience going forward. And some might be questioning, well, why do they use the isekai concept for storytelling? Why can't you just have a fantasy world setting and a warrior growing up in that world and them experiencing it, natively, rather than having a foreign person coming in and experiencing it? It's kind of it's a writing tool really they're utilizing, which you might claim as being lazy, but there's two facets to it. One is relatability, and the other being the concept of allowing certain narratives to happen more naturally. So if you have a character that is from our world going into another world, it allows you to relate to that character because then you see yourself as them. And self-inserting is a easy way for a writer to have the reader or the viewer kind of insert themselves into it and feel a personal experience in that. And that's something that writers, I believe, want the viewer to actually get. Granted, there's other cases where it's like, say, Talentless Nana, where I hope you don't relate to the character. If you do, seek help. But in most cases, they want the reader or viewer to relate to that character and actually insert themselves in that character. And like I said, the other side of it is really kind of that aspect of making storytelling more natural. Whereas if it is a person that grew up in a fantasy world, they're going to have to at some point have a bunch of exposition thrown on top of it to say, well, in a world where there is this kingdom and there's 3 neighboring kingdoms and they're at war and such, you can have that self-insert isekai character come in and them go, well, why the hell are they fighting? Well, then somebody has to tell them. And so it feels more natural telling that narrative of what exactly is happening in this world rather than it be you're expected to know. Or it's, since you don't know, let's tell you. So it works both ways. That's why these writers choose to use this as a way. I think the writer of ReZero not recently, but it was back when the first season came out, there was a interview or something that came out that actually he said the same thing. He wrote Subaru into the story because he wanted a character for people that people can relate to, even though you might not like Subaru as a character for certain reasons. He was put there as a relatable character because we're all from this world. We all understand exactly what he's going through. We understand his transfer to that world and his reasoning for seeing things the way he sees it, even though, again, you might not be a boy or you might not think that you'd react to certain situations the same way he would. You wouldn't be a super geek saying that you're part of Amelia's fan club, those kind of things. It is a relatability, though. That's what he was going for, and that's what I believe a lot of writers are going for, is that relatability that you would have in a isekai character into another world. But again, going back to the concept of these unique experiences, whereas most people, again, they're not wrong for wanting that. They're not wrong for seeing it that way. Understanding that it's just another isekai and just shrugging it off. When granted, most people don't have the time to invest in 5 isekais in a season. They're going to be going, well, which one of this list looks like the most unique experience? I want to go after that. Or they're going to wait for myself or another anime viewer to say, yeah, go check out this one because this is the gem of the season. Most people don't have the capability of going through and watching all these shows, and that's something that we at A Talk of Spirit has been doing for quite a while, is trying to watch all these shows to find those unique experiences in them. And even still, when we do check them out, we do say, hey, this one has this one hook in it that you have to check out. Even still, people will kind of shrug it off, like, it's an isekai. I don't really want another isekai show. Let me know something else. Because there is a lot of experiences in isekai shows that are unique and do stand out from the crowd. They do offer those experiences that most people will find actually really cool. Uh, just throwing out some examples here, we have Overlord. That one was a huge hit at the time. And it was more in the fact that the unique experiences that one was providing was having a person who was trapped in an MMO as his character, who was like this big skeleton demon lord guy. But the unique experience there was he was the bad guy. And not only was he the bad guy in this particular world, he was like this skeleton demon guy of this huge labyrinth. He was becoming his character. He was becoming this skeleton overlord. He was questioning himself, losing certain compassions and whatnot. And that was that cool, unique gem within, yes, another trapped in a game type of story. Ascendant of a Bookworm has been like my favorite show of the last few years, just because it is this girl that has been this bookworm that has been transferred to another world, but not to, super overpowered abilities, not to being able to make fortunes and live the life of luxury. She's moved into poverty, into a family that is under the nobles that rule the area. She's very, very sickly. She's barely able to move around much. She's dealing with all these disabilities that are keeping her from just reading a book. And of course, it's more than just that, and it gets more into detail of her mana and the overflux of mana she has, and it might possibly turn into eventually her being overpowered. I don't know. But as it stands now, it's really just her just trying to survive. And that is, again, another unique experience within this world that you don't really, see with most other isekais. Most isekais is they go there and they're super overpowered, and granted, those are the ones that I struggle with the most. Overlord was one of those unique experiences where even though he's overpowered, it's fun how it's portrayed that he's overpowered. ReZero, I know it's become the new Sword Art Online to enjoy that one, but I've enjoyed ReZero. And the reason why I've enjoyed ReZero is not so much the hook of him dying and restarting. It's the fact that he kind of is, his mind is getting warped by the fact that he is dying and coming back, or losing people and coming back, and that he can't confide in anybody. He's just living the Groundhog Day experience over and over again, and he can't tell somebody what he's struggling with, and he's running into different routes that people that he cares about turn to enemies, and how that affects his psyche. And granted, again, that's another experience where most people hate Subaru because of his outburst, because of that experience. It is kind of looking into the lens of the writer and how they would see the character dealing with something that we have never experienced. I mean, I hope nobody's experienced the idea of dying and coming back, but he's experiencing this, and the writer's trying to portray how that would affect somebody's psyche. And that's the fascinating thing that I've found from it. How is he going to overcome this thing? Is he going to snap? Is he going to overcome this? What's going to be the thing that keeps him sane throughout this entire ordeal? And that's been that thing. And of course, you have things like a Vision of Escaflowne, which at its time was, it's hard to go back and watch it now because you're like, well, this is just another isekai. But that was something that was very original for its time, and the kingdoms and the artistry that's in that particular series is a gem as well. Dot Hack Sign, I think, was the first one to really, popularize the trapped in a video game genre. And that one had a great twist at the end of it. No Game, No Life is kind of taking that concept and turning it into kind of mind games and all that kind of stuff. The great comedies like Konosuba, Outbreak Company, Kasha's Hero. They're fantastic comedies that are mixed in with the idea of isekai, but they're still fantastic shows. And shout out to Outbreak Company that has, even if it is a comedy, has great messages in it too that just catch you off guard. So they each have something they're offering. And I'm not to say that everything has something unique to offer. Like I mentioned earlier, they're not always hits. Like in another world with my smartphone. didn't work for me. It didn't offer enough for new for me that I was grabbing onto it. Death March to Parallel World Rhapsody, that one didn't really hit too much. Knights and Magic, maybe it was kind of cool, this idea of this mecha nerd in a world that has mecha, and then applying that. Again, even if I don't thoroughly enjoy it, there's still sometimes something in there that I'll find, like the High School Prodigies Have It Easy in Another Life. Even that one has small nuggets within it that do end up standing out, but they're not always hits. But it's just looking for those hits that is enjoyable for me. And finding those great moments mixed in there, like the By the Grace of the Gods had a moment in it that actually got me teared up. Even though overall I didn't really care much for the show, it still had this moment where it punched me in the stomach and said, I have some feels in here if you want to check them out. Might not always hit it, but it's got it. So those moments are in there as well. Gate had some really powerful moments in it, like the scene with the Japanese civilian that was captured by the king and their outrage on that. Those kind of moments. Rory, coming out of the flames and scaring her sister. Those are cool moments that are kind of mixed in there. And like I said, Grimgar Fantasy and Ash was a huge standout for me as well. You had pretty much a typical isekai, but it was, I guess, the very first experience that I had in isekai storytelling where it was like a slice of life. It was just them living in that world, doing laundry, scraping the bottom of the barrel just to survive, getting basically a job in that other world, and not having everything handed to them, not being overpowered, having to climb from the bottom up. So much that I went out and actually bought the light novel series because unfortunately I don't think they're going to have another adaptation of it, but it was enough to grab me, and that was enough for me. Like, I see what you're doing here, and I think that it's very unique, and I want to check out more of it. So, and plus, if all else fails, in the end, we can get great waifus like Rory from Gate, or Shaltir from Overlord, or Yume from Grimgar and Fantasy and Ash, Rem from ReZero, or Emilia if you're Team Emilia. I don't judge, but and they're all experiences in the end, and that's what we get for anime. It's they're not always going to be smash hits. There's 40 in a season. You're gonna not find gems everywhere, but when you do find those gems, I think they're worth it. So if you don't have the time to actually go through and watch all these isekais, if you don't have the time to go through and watch all the sports shows, all the club shows, all the mecha shows, at least listen to people when they're talking about this did something cool. See if it's something that you're actually interested in, and give it a shot if you want. And I think that's the thing to kind of keep in mind with, everything in general, but isekais as well. Give isekais a chance. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on why I keep watching isekais. And if anything, it's just because I have trash taste. But y'all take care.